TWM podcast.
Now, the wrestling world, us included, were stunned and floored with the incredibly sad news Saturday morning, BST, of the passing of Hana Kimura, 22 years old, 22, passing away. Not going to get into details on how and why it happened. We kind of already know what led to, or what caused her passing. It does seem like it possibly was her taking her own life. I don't think it's been confirmed, so I'm not going to say outright that it was that case, but I believe the police said there was no foul play, which obviously leads down to one certain avenue. I think it goes without saying that this is just, it's all awful.
Yeah, it was a horrendous 6 days really, from starting with like Chad Gaspard sort of going missing the start of last week, and then rolling into the Dark Side of the Ring Owen Hart documentary, which stirred a lot of emotions for me. Then like late on Friday for us our time, we saw some of the stuff that had been posted on social media by Hannah, and then like instantly that was the first thing I saw. I woke up at about 4:30 on Saturday morning, and that was about 45 minutes before Stardom put the tweet out, but I'd fallen back to sleep and woke up about 6 a.m. and it was sort of like the first thing that I saw. It was, it was never a real consideration in my mind that it was going to be something I'd wake up to. And that's not to dismiss the situation, but you just don't think it's going to happen, really.
Yeah, I doubt that anyone cares, but to kind of put a timeline on what we were doing, at the time this all happened, me, you, Reese, and Kim from Best of the Rest were all on Twitch. We were doing our little Double or Nothing Twitch stream, and we were laughing and joking, and we saw a bunch of texts come through. We have a WhatsApp group with the guys that help keep TWM running, and a whole bunch of messages came through. Obviously I didn't want to bring it up on stream because we don't want to, everyone was in a positive mood and you don't want to bring the mood down, but I kind of,
we didn't really know anything
definitely, and I actually remember giving you the Iggy on it and being like, I'm not going to say this on stream, but Mike, read your phone. And so fortunate for us, again, that matters in regards to fortunate event, I did not see any of the tweets or the photos that were up online. Luckily, for my mental well-being, obviously, again, doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but I didn't see it. And the last thing I heard going to bed, because obviously it was a worrying time and everyone was tweeting support for Hannah and all that stuff. The last thing I heard from several people was that a bunch of people from Stardom, the guy Ross that runs Stardom, and I believe Jungle Kiona,
Rossi
Ogawa and Jungle Kiona were going to Hannah's house. And in my mind, that I was like, they've got there. In my mind, I was like, they're there. Hopefully, she's fine, and this is more.
It's the situation's sort of under control.
It was more we were all assuming that this was a cry for help rather than a farewell note almost. And this is the weird thing. I've said this a bunch of times, and it does seem very weird. My phone was on silent, as many people do when they go to bed. And I remember putting my phone on silent about, I want to say, 1 a.m. or whatever. Going to bed. And then I get woken up by the text alert on my phone going off at 5 a.m. And I was like, that's weird. Why? I woke up, I was like, well, no. I looked at my phone and it was on silent. I was like, why has that come through? And I've opened it and it was a text from Joe, just with the link to the Stardom Twitter, and oh no. Read that, and obviously then we hear that Hana Kimura had passed away. And for a lot of people, it was just it was a gut punch to fans around the world to see someone that was like 22, already one of Stardom's biggest stars, and probably on the way to become. I think a lot of people said there's like, it's a case of like when and not if that she was going to get picked up by an AEW, by a WWE, because she was just she was too good to. This sounded disrespectful for Stardom, but she was one of those stars that was almost going to be too big to stay in Stardom.
She was going to transcend Stardom.
Yeah, she was going to transcend that that level of industry and go to other places, and to have that all taken away over comments on the internet just really like. It stirs you up and you get a lot of angry responses. Now, to kind of put a caveat on this, from what everyone can see, I might be wrong. I said I'm more than open for someone to be like, no, you've missed a point here, and feel free, please, to tell me. My Twitter's there, Matty ID. Please, if you've listened to this and you're like, no, Matt, you've missed a point there, or I've got the wrong end of the stick, please come and tell me. I don't mind. This whole situation seemed to stem more from a reality TV show rather than wrestling itself. She was on this Japanese Netflix reality show called Terrace House.
Terrace House, yeah.
Yeah, and it was her and another girl from Stardom that was on this show. And I didn't know about it because that's a massive deal for to have like wrestlers on a reality TV show. And apparently she got into an argument with someone because someone had like put her gear in the washing machine and ruined it.
It wasn't just any gear; it was the gear that she wore
at Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah,
at Wrestle Kingdom, which that was an incredibly big moment for like culturally for Japan, for women's wrestling, for so much. And
yeah,
I can understand the frustration that would have come up to someone, in that moment.
And she kicked off and got upset, and I believe knocked a hat off someone's head. And this led, and I've seen some of the things that went right. This is the stuff I have seen, and it led to people just literally wishing ill will and death on this 22-year-old girl.
Yeah,
over an argument that was edited for a reality TV show, and this is the part that really fucks me off about all of this, because this is
the crazy thing that sort of like came into my mind is I was out walking on Saturday morning, like I really didn't want to go out. I was really, really depressed after hearing this news. It really got to me as a combination of the whole week, and was kind of listening to some stuff and thought about it, and it draws parallels to the situation last year from the Jeremy Kyle show, and it's insane to think that. I don't think we, as the United Kingdom, we've not really, we've not taken the situation on board and how these things can affect people.
Well, it's
a different situation, but there's still a lot of parallels to it.
This is also incredibly similar to the Jeremy Kyle thing, the Caroline Flack thing from last year. The Mike, I can't remember his name, Mike from Love Island, literally almost parallels to this, of people just being like, well, you're on TV, I'm allowed to hurl abuse at you over the internet, which is not the case. These people aren't robots, aren't cyborgs, aren't beings for you to verbally abuse because they are a character in this story. The people behind these characters are people, and just because you're doing it behind an avatar, a handle, and a keyboard doesn't mean that those words aren't penetrable and aren't going to hurt. And a lot of people are going to be like, "Well, it's the internet. Just go off."
But just to drive home that point, I don't know how many people listen or even know of the man. There's like an analyst that Wrestling Observer have called Jim Valley, and he's based in Seattle. He knows a lot about that local history, but is very into stud.
Yeah.
And he's really good friends with Fumi Saito, who's like the Dave Meltzer of Japan. And and if I'd advise anybody, if they want to learn a bit more about sort of Stardom, Hana Kimura, how she was, who she was, listen to the Wrestling Observer Live from Saturday. He tells a really, really beautiful story of how, and this just, it reminded me how human she was. I don't mean that to sound like very backwards, because obviously she was a human. But I think a lot of people would need to hear it on how, after the Stardom show in New York last year that they did at WrestleMania weekend, there was a big Stardom dinner where all the wrestlers went to. Jim Valley was at it. And when they were walking back to the hotel, like they briefly spoke, and then Hana Kimura sort of like ran off a little bit in front to Mayu Iwatani, and they just linked arms and just had like a really, really positive moment shared between like two young females.
Yeah,
who they weren't wrestlers at that point. They were two people.
This is the thing. Someone put up on Twitter a clip from, I'm imagining like a bit of behind the scenes content from Stardom's on demand channel, and it was Hana Kimura and two of the other people from Tokyo Cyber Squad, and they were discussing stuff, and they hammered home the fact that they were like, yeah, we are these wrestlers that do all this stuff in the ring, but they turned around and went, we're all like girly girls at heart. We want the same things that girls our age want as well. And that's not being like trying to like differentiate between, but it's the same thing. And those are the, like, my point I was jumping back to was people saying about, well, if people are saying horrible things online, don't look. That works for some people. Some people can't help because they want to, you know why? Because they want to look at it and see if it's over. Like, like, even with horrible things that happen in the world that don't even involve me, I want to not go on Twitter. Like with the Hana Kimura thing, I didn't want to go on Twitter because it was really depressing to read. It was really, really upsetting. But you want to keep going back because you want to almost look over the parapet and be like, is this over now? Is it safe to be okay? No, it's not. I'm going to go back under, come back a little bit later. And it'd be great that we wouldn't have this. But unfortunately, it's that human emotion of wanting to check that everything's all right that leaves the stuff just piling on you and piling on you and piling on you. And there could be all the tweets in the world about being kind and stop being horrible, but it comes to an eventual line where people are going to have to realise that, and there's people that are over 40 that need to realise that just because it's online doesn't mean it's not that it's less hurtful than someone hurling abuse at you in the street. It's tantamount to the same. And if there is one crumb of positivity to come from such an awful situation, it is the fact that the Japanese government have literally seen this and they have ramped up their looking into making cyberbullying and trolling online a criminal offence, which it should be.
Yeah, there's a lot of very, very worried people and a lot of accounts disappearing from a lot of places at the moment, which obviously shows the extent of it. Going back to what you're saying about Twitter, like it was very much the same. I didn't want to really be on there to see things, but again, morbid curiosity. I would go back, but
that's the exact
after a few hours, the amazing part about like social media showed through. And so many people shared their stories of her, and like they were so many just genuinely beautiful stories. The one that stuck out massively is there's about 5 or 6 tweet thread from Brody King, who talks about her, and it's just why.
Yeah,
it's why she was a good person.
Yeah,
like
you know what?
Really amazing.
We'll put that Brody King tweet thread on TWM on the post of the podcast if people want to check that out. But and do you know what? Out of all the tributes and stuff, the one that did stick with me was Excalibur on Double or Nothing, who took a minute and a half to just turn around and be like, in this world with social media and all this stuff, just be kind. Like, It's one of those things. I can't believe you go back to literally what me and you in our real life jobs working with kids and even stuff that our parents say. If you haven't got anything nice to say, don't say it. And you know what? Me and you, but like I would even say, me and you aren't perfect. I've said stuff on the internet when I was younger.
Not at all.
I freely admit, like when I was 18, 19, I was a dick on Twitter. I'm blocked by loads of wrestlers by saying horrible things to them when I was 18, 19, 20. But like and I'm not perfect, and I'm always going to learn. And that's what people need to do in this, not even the situation, just in general. They need to learn. And if this is an unfortunate watermark for this, or watershed of people being like, this stuff has an effect. And it's not even just this. We've not even gone into the whole CJ Banks situation in the UK, where luckily, people got to CJ Banks and gave him the support before it was too late. But then at the same time, not 24 hours later, when this particular man, we didn't report on it because it's not news. This is a sad situation that needed to be dealt with, and I won't go into names and I won't go into people, but there were people behind the scenes here that were trying to get in contact and trying to make sure that he was okay. But there are some people out there, and again, I'm not perfect, Mike's not perfect, but there's some people out there in the British wrestling scene that were taking this as a joke, that were taking this as a chance to dunk on someone. And yeah, it's fine to like, and I always say it's fine to roast your contemporaries, roast people if it's good humoured. But after a while, you need to realise that something's up here because this is out of character. And from day dot, you could see with this situation that this was out of character for that person. It shouldn't take them to literally threaten ending their own life for people to suddenly start rushing to them. It should be an immediate effect when something seems out of character. It's a simple, like I said, it's a text. I've done it to you, Mike, you've done it to me. If I've not heard from my friends in a few days and that seems out of character, Mike's done it before, he's like, gone, he's going about his own business. I've texted him, like, everything alright? And he'll either say, I'm having a shit few days, or he'll be like, no, I'm fine, I'm just keeping myself to myself. You'd, like... Yeah. Like I said,
sometimes you need to take a few days to yourself.
Yeah,
that's fine to do.
It's one of those things. I always say this. This isn't we can't make jokes anymore. We can't do PC stuff. This isn't. Freely admit, I was talking about this with another friend of mine. I rip the piss out of her all the time. Make jokes about stuff, like make jokes. And she said to me, the difference is, one, there's humour behind it, and two, if I tell you to stop, you stop. And I think there's a lot of people around now that do that gang mentality of, oh, I'm on a computer, I can just keep going. I can just keep going. And this has shown that old adage of like, oh, sticks and stones don't break my bones is bullshit. If anything, words can have more effect. Words can stick. Words can put doubt. And doubt is the most dangerous word in the English language, because doubt can do terrible, terrible things. And if you look at the cases that have happened over the last few days, one that seemingly seems to have a more positive ending, and one that unfortunately reached a very sad crescendo, it all begins with people doubting themselves and doubting their place in the scheme of things, all because people want to just pile on and join in because it's fun to dunk on this person because they did a thing they didn't like. Wrestling isn't real. TV isn't real. Movies aren't real. People are. That's the thing we need to get away from. I'm going to learn to do better. I'm sure Mike is going to learn to do better, and I hope everyone else uses this as a catalyst to do better. Then again, 2 days later, someone started mouthing off about Alexa Bliss, and we had another shitstorm on Twitter. So it really, really upsets me that people can't fucking learn. But
just it's growth. Like that's what I think. That's the big thing to take away from this. Grow from it. Be better. Be kinder.
Yeah. Make
steps in the right direction. People aren't going to change overnight. I know I'm definitely not, but I have been way more sort of cognizant of just things. Full stop.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not going to stop like taking the piss out of my friends. I'm not going to stop like messing around, but I'm going to be aware, because there is a middle ground between playful jostling of the ribs of someone, like messing around with someone, and then just being hurtful because you think it's funny. And I think I've said this again, it's funny that I'm using quotes that I've used to like 8 and 9 year olds, and I have to use it to people in their 30s, their 20s, their 40s. It's not a joke if the other person's not laughing. That's the point. But to kind of just put a bottom line on this, I think if Hana Kimura can have any form of legacy, and I think it's a damn shame we have to discuss someone having a legacy at 22 years old, but we are, is that, like she used to say at the end when she used to do a finishing speeches with Tokyo Cyber Squad, it's okay to be different. Everyone is different. Everyone is special. Hana Kimura was different in a wrestling world where in Joshi where the most colourful, bright characters appeared. She was the brightest. She was the most colourful. She was that change in the in modern like Japanese women's professional wrestling. Like she was very much that turn that almost I've always compared her a lot to Billie Eilish in that way of like there was no other people that was really hammering home that kind of market for young girls of her age. Again, comparisons to her and Liv Morgan of that 20-something girl is like that sort of thing of like cornering that market, and they both did. But at the same time, she was that one going out there being like, yeah, I'm different. I've got bright pink hair. And wearing all these death metal t-shirts and being different, showing that it's okay to be different. And I hope that that's one thing that lasts 10, 20, 30 years from this, that there are men, women, anyone really, that can look at someone like that and be like, it's okay to be different. It's okay to be unique. It's okay to be yourself. Because if there's one thing that we can say about Hana Kimura, it's a shame because me and Mike have only really started seeing how truly good she is over the last like month or so. By rewatching Stardom, we'd heard things, and I was a really big fan of hers in general, just like via Zoe Lucas and Bobby Tyler and stuff. Is the one thing that we can all take away from this is if you're different, if you're unique, own it. Because if you're different, if you're unique, then you can be anything you want to be, and Hana Kimura definitely showed that.